What do I do? What do I do? I spent 300 grand in an art degree only to be replaced by AI. This was not the cyberpunk future that I was promised. I knew I should have listened to my parents and gotten a degree in finance. As you can see, this is an airsoft pistol by the orange tip. And the safety is on, just as my grandpappy taught me, because safety first. However, there is no reason for artists like myself to be pointing guns at their own heads, except for a pathetic attempt at absurdist humor, because we are here to stay, and for a long time. So in the past year or so, we've seen the trend of AI artwork on social media. And people are having a blast with this, running all sorts of quirky prompts through the AI software. But artists, on the other hand, feel screwed over by this, because how is the consumer supposed to tell the difference between something that was generated by AI and a piece of artwork that took days, weeks, months, or even years to create? I mean, some of the images are just frighteningly realistic, which of course has a number of ramifications that I will go into later. As is to be expected, artists whose livelihood depends on the creation of art are concerned with these new trends. So as somebody who's been freelancing for 10 years, I have some perspective that I can offer on this situation that I'm sure a lot of other freelancers are familiar with. So someone commissions a piece of art that they want to make for their company, they want a music video, they want some piece of content for their social media or their website. And they're not happy with the first draft, or the second, or the third, or the fourth, or even the fifth and sixth, and so forth. Okay, change that color here. Change the lighting here. Flip this around. Move that here, move that there. No, I'm still not feeling it. It's gotta be more powerful. You know, it's really got to be more powerful. Yeah, go in there with the clone tool. Yeah, go in there with the clone tool. Yeah, just clone that shit out. Just clone all that shit out. Just get in there. Yeah, too much. Yeah, that's perfect. Now that's perfect. So how does getting micromanaged by my clients relate to AI replacing us?
Micromanage, promote synergy, hit on Deborah, get rejected.
Well, to quote a British friend of mine, AI art is not industry standard, mate. And what do I mean by industry standard? The first thing that I noticed about when running these prompts through the AI, and perhaps I shouldn't be giving those evil nerds at big tech any ideas when saying this, but the first thing that I noticed was that when you run a prompt through the software, if you want changes made, you either have to run a prompt again, or you have to go into a piece of digital editing software, and go into Photoshop or Blender or After Effects to actually make the changes that you want to the image, which requires an artist to do. We as human beings barely understand what a client means by they want something to be more powerful. Never mind an AI software that needs exact, concrete pieces of information in order to do what you want it to do. Even if there was such a piece of software where parameters could be changed, there would be so many options and variants in terms of anatomy and lighting and composition and perspective. And I could go on and on and on in terms of all of the kind of artsy principles that you as an artist know and what positions you as an expert. And they would need to use an expert like you who knows what makes an image phenomenal in order to even make the final thing anyways. So in the end, an artist's expertise in terms of what makes an image actually compelling, in terms of telling a story, is still quite necessary. And I don't think an AI could ever replace that. There will also be a number of advantages for artists when it comes to artificial intelligence. For instance, rigging, which is used to create a skeleton for 3D animation, you can't just take a model and animate it. You actually have to create for those who are uninitiated, you actually have to take a skeleton and assign certain bones to a model to actually tell that model what to do and how to deform in certain ways. So that way in the end you can actually get your Spider-Man comic poses and animations. So AI would actually be quite useful in rigging a lot of character models, which have quite similar rigs, and would make the process a lot less tedious, and artists could spend more time styling their characters or working on the final animation. Unless there are certain rigs that are very niche and that would be harder to calculate. In the whole history of technology, we see very tedious tasks being delegated, and this will actually help artists. When the camera was invented, painters were afraid that they would be put out of business because they were trying to make their images as realistic as possible. But as time went on, photography became its own kind of artwork, and people still paint today because it has a kind of aesthetic and style to it that a camera just can't create. Painting couldn't be replaced by the camera because there's a style of the medium that cannot be replaced. In the same way that the camera couldn't replace the style of painting, I would argue that AI can't replace the style of artists because AI has no sense of style. It doesn't have this sense of understanding of all these parameters that an artist from years of mastery has. It can only take bits of information from one image and combine it with another. It's not actually creating a unique and novel style that an artist actually has. So to illustrate this, let's actually have a look at some of my favorite artists and see the distinct style that they have. Now to contrast, let's look at a few of these AI images. And as you can see, and it can be kind of subtle and hard to spot at first, but they kind of look generic. They don't really have a defined sense of style. There's nothing really unique about them. They're just generic AI prompts generated from images. They don't have a unique style. AI is not currently capable of creating a completely novel style. Only a human being can do that. However, this isn't to say that there aren't a number of ethical and even legal ramifications for AI. Artists are not the only ones that deepfakes, for instance, affect. Everybody should be concerned about deepfakes. With deepfakes, anyone can create goofy parodies of movies to porn featuring the politician of their choice. While the former is relatively innocuous, the latter has obvious ethical and legal ramifications. Lensa, which has become very trendy on Instagram, and okay, I admit it, I bought into the trend. I forked over profiles, pictures of my sexy face to the AI so they could make deepfake porn of me now. And all hail the algorithm. I submit to the algorithm. The algorithm can do no wrong. Was recently called out for using the copyrighted artwork of artists without permission or compensation, which again illustrates how AI is currently not capable of creating its own style, but renders images through information of other images. So how do we address our artwork or images of our faces being used without our consent? But this is especially concerning in a neo-Cold War era where leaders and politicians can be framed for saying something they didn't even say, or people could be framed for crimes that they didn't even commit. Embarrassing scandals could be created over events that never even occurred. The good news is, at least for now, there are still some artifacts that reveal that something is a deep fake, such as weird lighting, inconsistencies, or warping of features and proportions. However, as the technology improves, this calls for unique and novel solutions. New laws and regulations will be necessary for the use of AI. This will be a balancing act of protecting the expression of artists on the one hand and the right to security and privacy of individuals on the other. But that's a problem that's way above my pay grade as a would-be philosopher and editor for YouTube. That's something that Gen Z's Congress will enjoy fighting about in the year 2040, who will all have a cringe-inducing record of Snapchat and Instagram stories that were totally exempt from screenshots. I guess mutually assured destruction applies to more than just nuclear arms. So what are artists to do about the future of their livelihoods? The first thing, and I've already noticed this is occurring, so this is very encouraging, is to engage in dialogue. Start raising awareness around this issue. When there's a critical mass of enough people voicing that something is important to them. The people who make decisions that are in power, whether it be in the government or the private sector, have to, at least to some degree, concede the demands of the people in order for them to still be in power, even from purely their point of self-interest. So conversation about AI and how it is used is important for AI to be used in an ethical and democratic manner. So that's a social perspective on AI. From a career or personal standpoint, I would say that being an artist is challenging. It already was challenging. It is a competitive, it's not necessarily cutthroat. It is a very competitive career, and it's very hard to pursue from a financial point of view, as any artist knows. But some of the previous advice in terms of what makes an artist successful still applies. We still have to contemplate what distinguishes our work from others. So what can we offer, not just in terms of the artwork itself, but in the process to business owners, to companies, to our clients? What can we offer the private sector that can't be offered by the AI? And think very strategically about this. Because yes, there are changes. Whenever there's a new technology, there are benefits, but there's also problems, and we have to look at them honestly and not have limiting beliefs about them, but to think very honestly and strategically in terms of what we can offer moving forward. And perhaps after this Lensa scandal, there could even be opportunities where artists can be paid or compensated for selling their art style and given to companies to use that way. So perhaps out of this, there can be an opportunity that is advantageous to both parties. So to conclude this video, AI will not replace artists, but will work in tandem with artists, just as the camera did with painting. AI will reduce repetitive, tedious tasks, which will allow artists to spend their time in more creative, novel ways. But as AI evolves, this will open the Pandora's box to a number of legal and ethical concerns. And all that being said, no matter how advanced the AI may be, no matter how precise it may be able to analyze image after image, it cannot replace the image inside your head as an artist. That concludes today's episode. Hit like and subscribe, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on AI and ethics and how this relates to the creative process. Do you think that it's a positive thing, that it'll open up a lot of opportunities for artists, or that it will hinder artists and the ability to make a living, which is already difficult as it is, being creative, or some combination of the two? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And I'm happy to say that in the next few months, in the next year, I will have a number of projects for Focus Shift for you to watch that I'm very excited about. Hope all is well, and may peace be upon you.